Good morning, class. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. So I want to start out by saying you all are doing a fantastic job on your ELA assignments. Don't forget to share them with me through email, okay? So today we are looking at a new story, and it's called The Youth in Battle. I'm on page 22 of our reader, page 22. And I want you to first think about this question. How, considering our story of Yankee Doodle Boy, right? He was a young boy writing a journal entry. Thinking about Yankee Doodle Boy, how do you think it might connect to the youth in battle? Okay, that's something I want you to think about as we're reading this story. Okay, so the youth in battle, you're going to take a quick moment and pause, and you're going to review pages 22 to 29. Okay, that is the story we're reading. We always preview the text, kind of look at the pictures, look at the titles, anything you think you might find interesting, and go ahead and write down the purpose in the top of your reader, just as normal, okay? Purpose number 1, read paragraphs 1 through 14 to identify key events described through the mind and experiences of a young soldier during a Civil War battle. Annotate the events in order to summarize, okay? So let's go ahead and read the introduction. The classic Civil War novel, The Red Badge of Courage, 1895, is praised for its realistic depiction of war and the emotional impact on soldiers. The story is based, in part, on the Battle of Chancellorsville, May 1863. The Confederate Army, led by General Robert E. Lee, overwhelmingly defeated the Union forces. Okay, so the South beat the North in this battle. That's what he's saying. It was Lee's greatest victory. In the following excerpt from Chapter 5, a young soldier finally experiences a battle. After a lengthy wait, rumors about the Confederate Army is huge, and the Union soldiers will be defeated. The youth confronts his fears. Okay. So I don't see any key details in there. I see a lot of background knowledge, though. And that background knowledge is important. However, it's not key, and it's not helping me create a summary. It's just providing me with background knowledge of what I am going to be reading. Paragraph 1. There were moments of waiting. The youth thought of the village street at home before the arrival of the circus parade on a day in the spring. He remembered how he had stood a small, thrillful boy, prepared to follow the dingy lady upon the white horse, or the band in its fated chariot. He saw the yellow road, the lines of expectant people, and the sober houses. He particularly remembered an old fellow who used to sit upon a cracker box in front of the store and feigned to despise such exhibitions. 1,000 details of color and form surged in his mind. The old fellow upon the cracker box appeared in middle prominence. Someone cried, "Here they come!" There was rustling and muttering among the men. They displayed a feverish desire to have every possible cartridge ready to their hands. The boxes were pulled around into various positions and adjusted with great care. It was as if 700 new bonnets were being tried on. All right, so go ahead and look for key details in those 3 paragraphs. So some key details to notice here are that the youth thought of the village street as home. That's an important concept to remember, okay? So he thought of it as home. He was reminiscing back to a time when this was more more of a enriching moment in his life, right? We all have memories, and when we live our life, we think back to those memories, right? And they're like, oh, good memories, right? And so that's what he's doing here. And then another key detail that you should have hopefully noticed: 1,000 colors, details of colors, form surged in his mind. That's another kind of memory he's having. And then the last one, someone cried, "Here they come!" Right? And that's when he gets startled. It doesn't really say startled, but if someone has yelled, it kind of startles you anyway, right? So that's something we can point out. So a good summary here might be, as he waits, he dreams of home. Then is startled when someone cries out. Okay, so let's move on to paragraph 4, and we're going to read 4 through 8, so basically this whole page. Wow, what a cool picture here. So paragraph 4. The tall soldier, having prepared his rifle, produced a red handkerchief of some kind. He was engaged in knotting it about his throat with exquisite attention to its position, when the cry was repeated up and down in line in a muffled roar of sound. "Here they come! Here they come!" Gun locks clicked. Across the smoke-infested fields came a brown swarm of running men who were giving shrill yells. They came on, stooping and swinging their rifles at all angles. A flag, tilted forward, sped near the front. As he caught sight of them, the youth was momentarily startled by a thought that perhaps his gun was not loaded. He stood trying to rally his faltering intellect so that he might recollect the moment when he had loaded, but he could not. A hatless general pulled his dripping horse to a stand near the colonel of the 304th. He shook his fist in the other's face. "You've got to hold 'em back," he shouted savagely. "You've got to hold them back." So we see we're in the middle of war right now, right? And this youth is feeling a lot of emotions. Here they come, gun locks clicked, right? And across the smoke-infested fields came a brown swarm of running men, right? That's pretty important here. And how does this youth feel, right? Can we kind of assume how he might be feeling in this moment? I mean, maybe he's afraid. Afraid, just one F. Spelled that wrong. Right? As he caught sight of them, the youth was momentarily startled, right? And that's where we see the afraid. And then possibly his gun was not loaded. And that's quite significant, because when your gun is not loaded and you're in battle, you've got nothing to protect yourself. You've got nothing to defend yourself with. So that thought can instantly freeze you. And that's when he's trying to think about, okay, did I actually load it this morning? I can't remember. And then the colonel said, "You've got to hold him back," right? Okay, these are key details that move the story forward. All Let's go ahead and write a quick summary, and then we will move on to paragraph 9. So I would say when men, and we're just going to start with this paragraph, or excuse me, with this key detail. When men run across the field, his fear clouds his mind. And the best way I can explain that real quick is, like, say we're doing oral literacy and I'm not comfortable speaking in front of people. That fear might take over my mind, and I would, when I'm up in front of people, freeze, right? And I wouldn't be able to say anything because my mind would just not work, right? That's the kind of idea here. His fear clouds his mind, and he just can't even think. Then we move on to, as the colonel or the general yells to hold them back. And there is our one sentence summary for paragraphs 4 through 8. Okay? So we are going to read paragraphs 9 through 14 together, but I'm going to let you find the key details on your own, as well as write the summary on your own, okay? So paragraphs 9 through 14 covers these next two pages, which is pages 24 through 25. Take a moment and just look at that photo. A Union Army camp near Washington, D.C., 1861. Pretty significant. What a cool photo. Okay, paragraph 9. In his agitation, the colonel began to stammer. "All right, General, all right. By God, we will do our best, General." The general made a passionate gesture and galloped away. He just galloped, or, oh, he must have been on a horse, right? And galloped away. The general, perchance to relieve his feelings, began to scold like a wet parrot. What an image, right? What do we call that? What kind of figurative language do we call that? The youth, turning swiftly to make sure that the rear was unmolested, saw the commander regarding his men in a highly resentful manner, as if he regretted above everything his association with them. The man at the youth's elbow was mumbling, as if to himself, "Oh, we're in for it now! Oh, we're in for it now!" The captain of the company had been pacing excitedly to and fro in the rear. He coaxed in schoolmistress's fashion, as to a congregation of boys with premiers. His talk was an endless repetition. "Reserve your fire, boys. Don't shoot till I tell you. Save your fire. Wait till they get close up." Remember, during this time, you are annotating. You're looking for key details. You're looking for details that move the story forward, or details that you just think are the most important. Paragraph 12. Perspiration streamed down the youth's face, which was soiled like that of a weeping urchin. He frequently, with a nervous movement, wiped his eyes with his coat sleeve. His mouth was still a little ways open. He got the one glance at the foe swarming field in front of him, and instantly ceased to debate the question of his piece being loaded. Before he was ready to begin, before he had announced to himself that he was about to fight, he threw the obedient, well-balanced rifle into position and fired a first wild shot. Directly he was working at his weapon like an automatic affair. He suddenly lost concern for himself and forgot to look at a menacing fate. He became not a man, but a member. He felt that something of which he was a part, a regiment, an army, a cause, or a country, was in crisis. He was welded into a common personality which was dominated by a single desire. For some moments he could not flee, nor more than a little finger can commit a revolution from a hand. What a story we are in the middle of. This boy, at the very beginning, was daydreaming, right? He was daydreaming of being at home with bright and vibrant colors. Does this picture down below look like bright and vibrant colors? You know, maybe it's a grassy field, but there's no leaves on the trees, right? Things kind of seem like trash everywhere, and we're just taking this day by day. And he's all of a sudden in battle, and the colonel, the general, is yelling at him, "Don't shoot yet, wait for my signal." Man, what a story. And finally, we come to paragraphs 12 through 14, and we see that he no longer thinks of himself, "Oh, I'm just standing here," right? Like, no, he knows he's part of a regiment, an army in which they're in crisis. There's a single desire, a desire to unite the country again. For some moments he could not flee. No more than a little finger can commit a revolution from a hand. Okay? So, for paragraphs 9 through 14, go ahead and write key details. And then write your summary just in the margin here. Okay? And you're going to share maybe a 2-3 sentence summary on the comments section on Google Classroom. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later.